All right, everybody, welcome to another edition of Friedman Adventures. It is so good to be with you all. I've got my co-host, my son, Philip. Good to be with you, Philip.
Another great day, another great show, man. I'm looking forward to this.
This is the Jeff and Jeff show today. My first time meeting Jeff Markland.
We're sorry.
Nice to meet you, man.
Oh, man, it's really a pleasure. And Jeff Jessup is back. In fact, I think, Morrison has you. The last show we did. You were leading.
I want to. Nothing
sir.
Morrison says matters or counts.
That's true. Mike Morrison, the manager here at 22nd Street Landing, is a. Oh, I said I wasn't going to swear on the show anymore, so I can't really describe him the way I'd want.
Let's get a swear jar.
Yeah, yeah, I think so, man. You guys can swear all you want.
I'm going to be broke at the end of the day.
All right. So I thought we'd start out by, I don't know a lot of, I know a lot about you, but I want to go wind the clock back to when you were a little kid, 1,000,000 years ago, Markland. And I want to know where you were born and mostly how you got into fishing in the first place.
Okay, I was born in Meridian, Idaho, which is a suburb of Boise. I don't really remember too much about childhood because we moved, obviously, when we were, I think, 5, moved to Sparks, Nevada, and was raised in Sparks and Reno. Went to high school there, a little bit of community college, but started fishing probably when I was 7 or so.
And did it grab you immediately? I mean, did you?
For
did
sure,
you,
yeah. It was kind of one of those deals that, you get to escape, and Dad take you out of school sometimes.
Yeah.
We had all the trout fishing in the world up there, so that started, and then my uncle lived down here in Southern California, Newport, so we used to come for the summer and visit him, and then started the ocean fishing deal, and then kind of just elapsed the time there. Long story short, I got out of high school, started doing a little bit of community college, and my dad one day just said, "Hey, you wanna move to Southern California?" I was like, yeah.
It was nice of your dad to ask you.
Yeah, I didn't really think much of it because he still had a job, and then all of a sudden, I think I came home from school one day, and there was like a realtor sign like in the lawn. I was like, wow, I guess we're moving to Southern California. So started working on a boat right then as soon as I moved here. I think I started working on the Ultra in 2000, and been at Newport Landing, Davies Locker for since then 21 years.
Wow.
Years. Yeah.
When did you get your license?
Now he's married into it.
I get my license 2009.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And you have a huge social media following. I'm guessing
cult following.
Yeah. I want to get some tips from you because I think a lot of it is that you don't have and I could be wrong. Don't have a big filter, and people like that. People like the.
Yeah, we were talking about it outside. There's certain topics that I don't really try not to get into, politics being one.
Yeah.
It's they say when you go to a bar, you don't talk religion, you don't talk politics, same thing on there, unless you're just making fun of them, and you can make fun of everybody equally. It's free. So we started doing the thing, and, even negative press is better than no press at all,
yeah.
right?
Yeah. You mentioned politics, and when I grew up as a kid, I talked politics with my mother all the time, and I talked politics. But now it's at the point, and I stay up on it.
Yeah.
There's just like it's futile. I mean, because everybody is dug in. So you are not. It seems to me you're not changing anybody's minds. They're not even listening to you.
It's a lose-lose.
The problem is, Phil. Everybody has an opinion on politics. Everybody, you, me, him. We all have our politics, right? But it just in today's age, it just seems like no one has any respect for one another. Running a business, you got to keep it to a.
Like Jeff said, got to be neutral.
You don't want to.
Right. You don't want to lose 50% of your guys.
Yeah, you don't want to offend half your clientele. I mean, you want to come talk to me personally. Sure, we all have politics.
Yeah.
It's like no one wants to talk anymore. You know what I'm saying? It's like one side's this and
exactly. There's no like. It used to be you could you're for candidate A, I'm for candidate B. You're an asshole, I'm an asshole. Hey, let's go get a beer together after. You could do that. Now
there's a line in the sand now.
Yeah.
And if you're on one side, you're this, and if you're on, I'm not going to go into it, but you're on one side, you're this, and you're on one side, you're that, and you can't be on the fence anymore. You can't be moderate across,
which is sad, right?
I think so. Yeah, I think that everyone has a voice now. It's a problem. Before,
that's
even
true.
if you were a dick, you could be a dick at your house and no one heard you. Now you can just be a dick, and you can do it online, and the entire planet sees it.
You paying attention to that, Morrison? You can still be a dick, according to Jeff.
Oh yeah, well he is.
Yeah, right. All right, so that is, for me, it's sad that you can't have, because that's how you learn. You learn. You know, I went to communist China. I lived there for 3 years.
Yeah.
And I used to laugh when I first got there because I'd say, I'd send somebody a YouTube video or hey, I'll send you my Facebook, and they're like, oh no, we can't get that. And I go, oh, wow, that's crazy because in America we can do that.
Don't
like,
worry,
no problem.
Give it time.
No, now they're doing
You
that.
might not be able to do that here.
And so, I mean, I always thought the beauty of our country was you have the right to be an idiot, or you have the right to say stupid stuff. You know, that somebody else isn't going to make the decision for me. As stupid as I am and as bad as my decisions can be, I'd like to make the decision on whether I want to accept what so-and-so said. And now, thank God, we've got people thinking for us. Big tech, they're thinking for us. Oh, isn't that nice that I don't have to think anymore? They're going to think for me, and that's scary. Whatever side of this you're on, somebody thinking for you is a very
well, you can say
scary thing.
Whatever you want, but if it doesn't fit their rhetoric or their narrative, then
we're wading into dark waters here.
Yeah.
By the way.
Yeah. Where are we going with this podcast?
We're going right back to fishing right now.
Yeah.
So let's just start right here. You two guys, I mean, I know this business pretty damn well. When you got guys from different landings on different boats, are you guys competitive? You work together? How does that work? Because
the best explanation I can give you, Phil, is somebody asked me that question on the boat a long time ago, and I'll stick to the answer that I gave then. As far as me and Jeff go, like, Jeff is directly my competitor, but he's also one of my greatest assets. So in that regard, like,
you mean sharing dope together? Info?
Well, we've developed a great friendship off the boats, right? And we've developed that through working together on the boats. So is he my competitor? Yes, he's my competitor, but he's also my asset, and I would assume he'd probably say the same thing, right? So we work together very well. He helps me out, I help him out. Whatever, you know, like, there's times when I've been stuck on the bank, I need something, and he'll bring me out some galley supplies, or maybe he needs some bait. Like, if I have 3 scoops of squid, I'm going to give Jeff a scoop and a half, right? That's just kind of how we work together. So as far as competitor, I mean, I guess business-wise, sure, but I think we complement each other, I guess is probably a good way to put it, because it's friendly competitiveness. Like, if I've got, like, let's just say I caught 50 yellowtail, I know Jeff's going to be like, well, fuck him, I'm going to sit here and catch 53.
Yeah,
right? And,
for sure.
And he will. And it's all in good fun, you know, like, whatever. I'll be going home and go, how'd you end up? So, well, I got 53. I go, shit, I'm going to turn around and go back in there and anchor up again. I'm going to catch 54.
Yeah. You feel the same way?
Yeah, I mean, you want your guys that you're working with to catch, you know. And I'm not going to lie, and we've talked about this many times, it is nice being number one for that particular day, but just like anything else, it's you can be number one day, and then the next day, you know what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
you look like a complete ass, you know.
Right. Oh, yeah. Nothing colder than yesterday.
Well, it's fishing. Right? I think we just give it too much.
We've got some great stories. Like, I mean, we've both had some days where we're just like suicidal, and then we have days where it's just like, wow, that really worked out. You know, like, we really rolled the dice on that one and came out smelling like a rose. You know, it's fishing, but, you know, between the network of guys that we work with and the network of information that we have access to, whether it be through private guys or whatever the case may be, like, as far as our sector is concerned, we have a pretty good handle on what's going on.
Yeah.
You know, and like I said, we've got some doozies of some stories where we had this wild hair to go do this. And
normally when we do like a scouting mission and we call each other the night before, like, hey, we're gonna go check this out. We should have another person, like a third party, that calls us back after having that conversation and just says, hey, don't do that, you know, because that's the wrong call. And then we end up talking about it for 7 or 8 years after the fact. There's 4 or 5 that are pretty etched into my brain.
Yeah, there's a couple of good ones that are etched into the brain.
Well, give me one of them. Let's hear it.
Well,
don't bring up the Tanner one.
Well, there's the Tanner one. That's not the one I was thinking of. I know he went on a mission one time down the beach for something. I don't remember what was down. Yellowtail.
Offshore?
So this was something, this isn't even my story. I should let him tell. But he went on a good one, and we often laugh about this. So you think he ended up with like a sand bass.
Oh, when I went sea bass fishing on the beach? Yeah, so Obi Mako, Greg Obi Mako.
Giant sea bass, I'm guessing, right? Lured you down there?
He had ran the Pacific Star in one of those, they do the fireman challenge, you know. They got county versus city.
Yeah, Andy Ruiz.
So
he happened
to be running the Pacific Star, and he's got phone service. So he's texting me, you know, like the sea bass by, and there's bait grounds down here or whatever. You know, I'll give you my numbers. I'm going to be leaving. So I'm like, you know, nothing's going on. Like, I'm like turned down, like, I think he had 15 fish. I think they hooked 20 or 30, and they're all those 30 to 50 pound fish. So I was like, I'm going. And speak of the devil, Mike was on that trip. I think Aaron Graham was also on that trip.
Well, that's what screwed you up.
Quite a few cool people that it would have been really nice to catch, but instead, I think they drank like 200 beers. We caught absolutely nothing. And
they were still happy though, right? With the 200 beers in their gut.
I think they were drunk, yeah. So who would, you know, that was the only thing that would have made it better was actually maybe catching something. So we caught a sand bass, and that was our overnight trip on the beach. So that one's always been there.
We've had some opposite ends of the spectrum doozies over the years, like whether they were extremely memorable because they were so bad, or we've had some that are like extremely memorable.
And the Tanner Bank one that we're not talking about. Why are we not talking about?
No,
that?
we can't. There's certain details in that one that would without those details, and it's going to put
it doesn't make any sense.
It's going to put me in a bad position, and
perfect. Go ahead.
Well, no. Because for every one story
that's why you're here.
No, because
for whatever one day you were on the receiving end of something, you know, we all have a story where you were on the bitter end. I mean, this just happened. It was of no fault of anybody's. It's just for whatever reason we decided to go to Tanner. I don't know if I had information. This is going back a few years, but he had a charter.
No, you went on a whim because nothing else was going on.
Yeah, I think that SBL. We were fishing the Osborne. They had dried up. Anyways, we decided to go out to the Tanner Bank, and he had a charter that night, and his charter specifically wanted to be at Clemente,
and it was 100% rent rods.
It was all rent rods. So I said, well, I'll go scout. I'll give you a call, right? So we went out, and I get up on the bank in the morning right after daylight, and it's like, you know, you can see it, right? Like the birds are active,
everywhere.
The water, you know, current's going the right way, and I'm pulling up. And all I remember is there was one other boat there. There was this. Mike was Lackey was on the Vagabond. He was sitting way on the lower southeast corner of the bank, and as soon as I rolled up on that bank, everything was lit up, sonar, everything, and I was talking to Mike, and we dropped the anchor, and I come back, and I hear all this yelling and screaming, and I look out the window while I'm talking, and every rod's bent, and my deckhand runs up to the bow as we just come tight on the anchor, and he's going like this, like he's motioning me like we're bit, right?
Yeah.
So I think we're bid here, Mike. Long story short, I'm not going to get into all the details, but we ended up, that was probably one of the most memorable days in the last 5 or 6 years.
What'd you catch?
I think we ended up with like 275 good grade yellows and limits of bluefin. It was off the charts.
Wow. When was this? What year, like, about?
This was 2015 or 16.
It was 14.
14 or 15.
What a hit, man.
Yeah. And it was unbelievable. Like, we ran out of room in the fish hole. We started packing them in the bait tanks. Anyway, so I'm rolling off the bank, and
he was probably busy down on deck with a blue perch bite.
He was
I mean, there was, you know, I don't want to say in my defense, there was actually something to be caught, but we couldn't catch it.
Well, wait a minute. You have a group that wants to go to San Clemente Island. I mean, you have to.
Yeah.
You kind of have to do that,
but,
right?
I mean, it was one of those things, and I'm not going to talk bad on rental equipment, guys that rent rods, because that's a lot of our business. You know?
Of course.
But it's pretty hands-on day, you know. So like the situation that he had, we would have made it work for sure, but it would have been, you know, one guy on the tank and then every other crew member just tying hooks the whole day.
Yeah,
and maybe gaffing an occasional fish.
Kind of like what I make him do for me.
We would have looked like idiots compared to a boat full of guys that like bring all their own gear.
Yeah.
But there's a little bit of yelltail to be caught at Clemente, and we're hooking fish, and you know they're knocking the anti-reverse on the back of the spinners, and there's handles going backwards.
Right.
And if that's fine, whatever.
That is fine.
You know, this is early in the day. It's like not a big deal. Like maybe they're just getting their bearings here and figuring it out.
Yeah.
And then I get this call, and it's about the time, you know, it's a little earlier than normal. Jeff's at the Tanner. He's like, "Hey man, how's it going?" It's just that tone in his voice. I was like, "Oh fuck," you know. And I was like, "Yeah, what's up, man?" He's all, "I just want to let you know it's I don't know how your day is going, but it's biting out here." And it's just like you're like 45 miles away with an island in the way. There's no way you're ever going to be there, and you just you just know that you just made that mistake. And even if I would have went there, it would have been bad for me.
Right.
But and then it had to have been 11 in the morning or something like that because they were done. Like he was the best I've ever seen. And I was like, that's great. Have a nice day.
Rubbing it in.
And no, he wasn't rubbing it in. But like, there's no like soft way of telling somebody like, hey,
we hate that.
Hey,
right?
loser, you made the wrong call. You know, like. So then after that, I think I went from like, you know, just this normal, like kind of bummed out to like
suicidal.
I think I was like a complete piece to pretty much everyone on the boat,
Really?
crew members and charter people, and just super frustrated. Like this guy lost a Yellowtail red at the boat, and I think I lost it. And then to make things worse, me being a jerk all day, and then they left us this big old tip at the end of the day, and that was like the icing on the cake. Like, you loser, like you're a complete piece to these people. You could have showed them a good time with a smile on your face, and maybe even made more money, and they still gave you money for being a jerk. So,
but it sounds to me like you learned a lesson there, right? Because we all learn lessons that way, you know.
You always make the wrong. No one makes the right call every day.
No,
you know?
Exactly. Yeah, I mean that's a tough.
Like
one.
I said on the last show, like we're all competitive, right? Like we want to be in the thick of things together, and if you're not, you don't. You know, it sucks. Trust me, I've been on that end of it more days than I even.
That one's like right here though, like every day. You know, you like just think about it, like, oh, there you are, like in your pocket. Like, I'm not going to do that again.
No, well, I wanted to get that out of you guys, and I didn't. I wasn't sure I was going to get it, but I got it, so I'm happy about that.
We occasionally bring that one up, and then I don't remember Jeff's. There's been a couple, but.
Oh, you mean where Jeff's on the other end?
Oh yeah,
well, come on, what is it?
I know there was
because we already got Markland.
I don't think anyone compares that one. That one's pretty all time.
I know there was one day. I don't remember the specifics of it, but these guys somehow ended up with squid, and they were up on the west end of Clemente, and I was in the cove, and I could hear them on our radio, and they were getting bit. I think it was him and Bruce.
No, it was Brian running the boat.
Well, yeah, maybe it was. Yeah, I don't remember the details. I just know they were getting bit, and I could not put anything together. I was literally
You had no squid though.
I had to call home and be talked off a ledge that morning.
Really?
I was.
Well, nothing had gone on that year so far, and I think Brian had made I think it was something like 75 pieces of squid. Like, it wasn't a lot, and I think all 75 pieces of squid turned into 75 yellowtail.
Oh my God!
I woke up in the morning in the cove. I'm by myself. I'm like,
where's Brian at?
Where'd everybody go?
He calls me on the phone and he gets service. He's like, where did you guys get squid? I was like, dude, I don't know. Like, let me call Brian real quick. I text him and he's like, no, we scratched like one piece at a time, and there were those little, you know, gummy squids, and he said every one at the bottom, and it was good grade fish, but you know,
I was homicidal.
You're 20 miles away, you know, your morning bite might be your day at that island, you know, and vice versa, your afternoon bite. Like, so there's some times where we see each other and we're crossing paths like on the back of the island. Normally that's not a good sign, because if you're going the same direction that another guy's leaving, but then all of a sudden you're like, well, our days are done, like, and then all of a sudden you go this way and then that guy goes that way and you're 15 miles this way, and all of a sudden like that at the end of the day, then your day's made, and you can't be everywhere at once. You know?
That's so true. That's so true. Have you guys, I'm sure you have you been in situations where you're watching somebody else?
Oh yeah.
Just kill them, and you got to drive away.
We try not to. Like, our goal, pretty much when we leave the dock, is we're not going to watch anything. You know, that's no one wants to watch.
Right. But it happens, right?
Oh yeah, we'll try to get set up. I mean, Clemente's
like you've been
a pretty
cuckolded, right?
Yeah.
When you're watching somebody else.
Pretty neat.
Oh hell yeah!
Because a lot of that back of that island, there's a lot of big structure.
Yeah.
So you're able to, you know, if you're there, or the next guy, or Jeff, or, you know, Tino, or whoever's running the boat, like, because we're all homies. If they're there and they're there first, there's always areas where another guy can kind of weasel in there, and then you can get two boats on, you know, one on one side, one on the other, and everyone like drives by and goes, wow, those guys are really really close to each other, not knowing that we're talking to one another, but we're kind of locking the area down.
Yeah.
So other boats.
We
can't
try
get
to
in
have
there.
like a general rule. Like, it's kind of like an unwritten rule. We try to, for the most part. Like, if one guy finds it, you know, and gets bit there first, or finds something, we try to let him have carte blanche, right? And then we'll just work around him. So like, Jeff finds a squid nest and he gets bit there one morning, you know, and puts it out. Then we come in and we'll try to like.
Oh, and you get as close as you want, you know, but you don't want other guys, you know.
Right.
Not that it's kind of a selfish way to do it, but if you don't do it, somebody else is going to.
Yeah, exactly.
These weekends at the islands nowadays are just a joke anymore, you know.
Well, that brings up another subject: private boaters. Now, some private boaters are very nice.
Oh, a lot.
Some private boaters are
Some sport
not
boat guys,
very nice.
Some sport boat guys aren't nice.
That's true.
You know,
That's true.
Etiquette kind of, I think, it's definitely changed, or lack thereof has
Etiquette's
changed
universal.
It's-
I mean, it should be. I guess.
over the years.
So how's it changed? I mean, from you got your license, or you started in 2000 on the boats? What have you seen happen in those 20 plus years?
More boats,
Yeah.
and more access to information. You know, with online stuff.
Right.
You know, this podcast wouldn't be possible without the internet.
That's true.
People can watch it for free, and listen, and same thing with the information. And then you got people that are giving numbers out or selling coordinates and what have you.
That's one that kills.
That sucks. But I think it's just everything's right in front of people's faces.
Right.
So all of a sudden you got the Freedom or my boat now that because we're over 65 feet in length, we have the AIS and
I know.
we have to have them on. So all of a sudden, let's say Tino calls in a fish report, and then I call in a fish report, and they look on the AIS app, and then we're sitting, it looks like we're stacked on top of one another, and we turn in really good yellowtail fishing. You zoom in on that coordinate, and then by that next morning, you can't beat a boat that goes 25 knots.
Right.
So you want to, you're coming around the corner at 4 a.m, and there's
And
already 5 or 6 boats sitting
Locked
there.
up. Oh man,
And,
that's got to be frustrating.
It's frustrating, I mean, I think our saving grace is bait capacity when it comes to sitting on a spot, but it gets to a certain point where I'm not gonna throw my anchor on top of like a private boat.
Yeah.
The etiquette, I would say, since this last El Nino rolled around, has gotten really out of control.
Really?
I don't know how else to put it. Right, like these guys will just literally roll right up on you, and they'll park right up swell you in your chum line.
But I think we
no regard for like the fact that you got people on the boat.
Yeah.
Not all of them, right? I'm not throwing everybody into the bus here.
Right.
There's a lot of very talented skiff fishermen.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of guys that know what they're looking at.
Yeah.
There's a lot of guys that, which I've never understood, who they spend all this money and equipment and boats and tackle just to follow him or me or whoever.
Right.
Like,
it's not really fishing at that point.
and-
No, yeah,
When you're
because
just-
the hunt is part of the whole thing, and when you're just following somebody, it takes that out of it.
Oh, you'd think, yeah. But I think also too, like Jeff was saying, the El Nino cycle kind of that definitely lit the flame for etiquette
changed
being
the game.
burned.
Why the El Nino side? Why do you think that changed the
because
etiquette?
the interest in fishing.
Okay.
When there's nothing to catch, people aren't buying boats. They're
Right,
not buying rods
right.
and reels. And we had that problem, like we talked about, like you're on a spot. But they see us go up to one another, like taking over a kelp or taking over a spot of fish, and we're going stern to stern, not knowing that, like, hey, dude, like, I called him on the dispatch, or I called him on a radio.
So they see that.
They
and
see
think,
that.
Oh, hey.
And I think a lot of times, like, we have to kind of like lead by example. When they see us, hate to use the phrase, but that's what they say, gang banging a kelp or whatever, all potted in one little area at an island. They think that that's, and it is acceptable if invited,
Right.
So I think like there's a lot of that going on, that people just see it and they go, well, they're doing it, we can do it, and they're smaller boats, so I feel that they think they can maybe get a little bit closer than two big sport boats right next to one another.
So do you feel like most of these indiscretions are a result of ignorance, or because I don't give
I just think it's a complete disregard for.
they don't care.
They just
Any kind of-
want to catch fish.
Yeah.
And they don't care. They don't care.
Yeah.
They don't
Yeah.
care. They don't care that he's.
And we're not talking about everybody. So
No.
we're talking about the
There's
guys that
offenders
do
out
this,
there.
right? Yeah.
And we flew over a subject too when we started this topic here.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
said
go ahead.
guys that sold information.
Yeah, right.
A lot of us came up through the ranks and learned the old school way. Like I mean, I'm old enough to actually go back to when I originally started doing this on local boats. I still have my book where we wrote down land bearings.
You do? You're that old?
Well, yeah, I am.
Yeah. That didn't seem like it. But I mean, people don't understand.
And numbers and things that were taught to me and shown to me, just like he learned, just like almost probably 95% of the guys in this business learned. And so for the few guys out there, and they know who they are, who took all that information and sold it publicly, I'm just going to leave it right there.
Yeah, I'm the same.
It's amazing.
Sellout.
It's amazing to me that, like, I can still remember being a kid on the Redondo Special and watching Barney Barnes. We're going out to the or whatever, fishing, whatever, and he's lining up bearings
Old school.
to get on it, and I'm like, what are you doing? And then he started explaining to me, this is how we get on the spot. And it's pretty amazing that people can do that. You know,
One of the most impressive things I ever saw, Phil, and I don't go this far back, but when I am going back a little ways. When I was running the Redondo Special, you know Glenn.
Yeah.
Glenn ran that, but I think he bought it.
I
in
work with
72.
Glenn a lot. Yeah.
One day,
Glenn Mueller, by the way.
Glenn Mueller took us out on a goof off one day. Just me and my deckhand and him. And I hardly was ever, if ever, on the boat when Glenn ran it. We just had a simple little GPS, a radar, and an up and down meter. No sonar. Glenn sat there, literally. Boat was up on step, doing 9 knots. He was watching his watch, his radar, and he'd look over his shoulder once in a while while he was running out on a bearing.
I
would
know
he
exactly
would dictate
what you're
to me.
talking about.
He would say, "Oh, here comes the 30-minute red spot. We'll be running over here in just a minute." And he's watching time and bearing and radar. And I was sure as shit, man. It come up on the meter, and he goes, "That was a good one." And then he'd turn a little bit, and he'd run out on another one. He said, "We should be going over the wreck here in just a second." And I was like, dude, that's pretty impressive, right? Like
Pretty
nobody fishes
amazing.
like that anymore. But
We take that for granted.
but
now.
all those
Yeah,
things
right.
that were passed down to us, to me, to him, to other people like us, and the things that I learn, he learns, and he teaches Brian, and I teach guys that are coming up under me. We learned this through being a student of the game, right? Like this is the old school way that you teach a guy how to fish, and then there's guys that commandeer that information through technology and the internet and basically sell our fishery out for a profit.
Yeah.
Again, I don't want to dive into it, but they know who they are.
They're on the hit list, it sounds
Well,
like.
I have no respect for them at all.
I gotcha. So Dave Dodge, you guys know Dave Dodge?
I love
I do.
Big Dodge.
Dave's coming in today.
Nice.
We're doing another podcast. Dave took myself and Will Eversman out to catch big sand bass one
He's got
time.
some spots too.
This was a few years ago. Will was still alive, obviously. He's passed away since then. Was my dear, 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 dear friend. But Dave had all the freaking equipment.
I used to work for
He had the electronics, and he didn't use them, man. And so he runs out. He's looking at bearings.
Yeah.
He anchors, and then he takes like an 8-ounce, and he starts casting to find the structure that way. And he goes, "Oh, there it is."
Mm-hmm.
We're freaking catching these sand bass. Like
Yeah.
that to me
Well, that's
is
the poor man,
amazing.
Poor man's sonar. So
Yeah.
you could sit there with the sonar and scan out when you're fishing a small artificial and go. You used to tell the regulars like starboard side, because
Yeah.
they pitch their squid out there on the lead head and maybe catch a big one. It's, I don't know, slightly deceiving, but
That's fun. And
those are your boys,
going back to the private boater thing, I don't want to leave it quite yet. You don't make any bones about it on your social media when you've had an altercation with somebody, right? You kind of put that out there.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it's necessarily like an awareness thing or anything like that, but
Maybe you're frustrated. You're
It's a
venting.
PSA.
it just pisses
It's a
me
PSA.
off,
Yeah.
And it's not like any one person, It's we see hundreds and hundreds of boats throughout the course of a week, sometimes, if not in a day. And there's a lot of guys that are they're good.
Yeah.
And then they do their own thing. You see like private boats in the middle of nowhere, private boats sitting at the island fishing a spot, and you're like, all right, this guy's knows what's up.
You guys that find it,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
call us.
and they're
Yeah.
catching, and that's great. But we've seen guys like throw divers over the side, like during bluefin fishing
Oh my
a couple
God.
years back. And it was that 30 to 60 pound grade, nice grade of fish. You'd slide up on a big breezer and they'd be boiling around, and you wouldn't hang a bunch of fish, but you have a few fish going. And one particular day, some charter dive operation, I don't remember his name, or I don't really feel like saying it,
Yeah.
just deploys these divers like they're like in some kind of like special ops mission or something like that, like they're Navy SEALs jumping off the back of the boat, like literally like almost within casting range. And it's
Oh
like,
my God.
and then the boat is hundreds and hundreds of yards, and then there's boats driving around. Like you're just gonna drop
It's dangerous, right?
passengers over the side, and then you're gonna be hundreds of yards away from rescue. And then what if another boat just
course.
creams them at 25
Right.
knots? And eventually, I think it's probably gonna happen.
We've seen it all. I mean, over the years you see it all. But it's like he said earlier. You go out, we pay our dues all week. We burn the fuel, we put in the time, and you go this island, that island, and you finally find a spot of fish that's biting, right? And
Yeah.
then you call it in, and the guys see on AIS, and they're like,
And then
"Oh,
Saturday rolls around.
let me call in
Ugh.
sick to work tomorrow. Let's go get the skiff out, right?" And then they're gonna leave at 6:00 at night and beat you to right where you were. It's frustrating.
That has to be such a dilemma. You're in a good bite. You're thinking, I want to get people on the boat. So you call 976 Tuna or whoever you call. you get the dope out, but you know at the same time you could be, but you have to do it. And
Double-edged sword.
Wow.
Double-edged sword.
That's tough. You know, one thing that I will say right now, anybody who's ever made the comment below your wheelhouse, like, what the hell, this guy, what's he doing? Doesn't he know what he's doing? You know how you hear that once in a while from somebody? Watching this, people have got to see how much you two really want to catch fish and all of the obstacles you're faced with in trying to do that. It's not an easy job.
You know, like, if you really think about it, for a day to come together, for all the stars to align.
Yeah.
It's like guys, talking shit to you. What do you do? You know, I'm like, okay, here's what's going on. I'm trying to find something I can't see. I'm trying to make it eat something it doesn't want to eat, and I'm trying to do it all with your talent.
That's the tough part.
Pretty much.
Especially when you got guys like me fishing.
Well,
Joe.
and it's more
you
time.
can fish with me. I'm pretty lame. So
But think about
I
it.
heard you. We were talking on the digital radio, and I think you just hooked a yellowtail on the yo-yo jig. Phil's got one. He's gonna bounce it, and I hear all this yelling in the background.
You giving him the
That's when
play-by-play
you
on
feel-
that?
Yeah. We've been side by each a couple times last year when you were on the.
I know.
On the Amigo.
I know. Yeah.
But
In fact, I shot some bitchin' shots of your boat.
Yeah.
And yeah.
But like you're saying, there's a lot of factors that just go into it, and I'd say more times than not for us, in our eyes, the stars don't align.
Right.
And people are stoked at the end of the day sometimes, and I think we end up beating ourselves up over it because it's not like taking a skiff out and like catching 3 yellowtail for 2 people. That's a great day. Like that was fun. You go out there after catching 50 one day and you catch 10 the next or 8 or whatever, and I don't necessarily know if the people had already been booked on the trip. They don't know the difference most of the time anyways. But you as the operator, you get down on yourself.
Right.
So more times than not, you're just chasing that next big score. You know what I'm talking about,
Yeah,
right?
I mean-
we need a hit. Like 10 yellowtail's a good day. It used to be a good day.
Here's the business model, and a lot of people that are in business don't run a business this way because there's so much more things that are within your control if you own a restaurant or whatever the case. For us, I cannot control the weather. I cannot control the bait.
Wish you did.
I cannot control.
Yeah.
I cannot control the conditions. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, the only things that I actually have control over is the cleanliness of my boat
Correct.
and the service that you get.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
And perhaps the food that you eat on the boat.
Yes.
If I keep all of those things in check, I've done my job.
Absolutely.
Because the weather, the bait, and everything else beyond the scope of my control is basically
They're variables.
they're X variables.
Yeah, and anybody who's been fishing for any amount of time realizes that. That's why if I go fishing with you and we don't catch crap, I like catching fish, but I like spending time with you. I like Mark on deck. I like all your guys. I like people. So when I go on a charter, I like interacting with people.
You're a unicorn.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I used to go fishing with my dad back in the day. It was just nice to be fishing with my dad.
Yeah.
We had plenty of trips up in the Sierras fishing trout. Like it'd be cold or windy, and we'd leave. But you weren't at work. You weren't dealing with BS. And we got people now. It seems now that like the ticket prices have gone. I mean, up obviously this last year because we've cut our loads. But
Yeah.
people feel that like the money that they're spending to go fishing should
Yes.
somehow guarantee them
Yeah.
fish.
Yes.
If you want
I
fish
agree
and a
with you.
guaranteed fish, like just go to the store.
Go to the fish market.
Go talk to Tommy Gomes down in San Diego,
Right.
the fishmonger. He'll hook you up.
Exactly.
But I think a lot of people come now. You're starting to see more and more people, even on a bad day, where you're beating yourself up over it, and then you walk back there and they're like, "Hey, Cap, thanks, man. Can I get a picture with you?" Or shake your hand or something. You're like, "Dude, today sucked." But then they're stoked. They're having their beers and eating their burgers, having a
I
great
think
time.
there's no doubt that our expectations
are way higher than theirs.
way higher than the people's.
absolutely.
Most people's, right? Like, I
Absolutely.
think he's right that a lot of people think that, hey, I bought a $200
It goes
ticket,
both ways,
that what I take home justifies what I spent. But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, he's 100% right. Like you don't realize how much just catching a yellowtail or something means to somebody. Like
Or 10 whitefish.
might be beating ourselves up, going, "Wow,
Yeah.
that kind of sucked." And they're
People
genuinely
are stoked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or you salvage the day and you're like, all right, here we go. We're going to the whitefish grounds. And we've side by each that many times. There's at Santa Barbara Island in particular, there's one little stretch that's, we're going to set up here, throw a little bit of bait around, put on a good show. At the end of the day, nothing pops up. you just tell people to start dropping down the bottom. And if your day was good or your day was bad, you give yourself a little bit of insurance. And sometimes there's people that they care less about fly line and bait and bumping elbows with everyone in the stern.
Right.
They're dropping squid down the whole day. So when whitefish start, I don't know, whitefish for us, I think is like our number one insurance.
It's an insurance, but
Razorback, bottom Dorado.
they're great.
To that note, I've had guys come on the boat and tell me like, hey, I went on such and such boat or whatever, and I go, did you have a good time? No, it sucked. We didn't catch anything, right? And I'm thinking, all right. And I've heard that a lot, like, I went on this half day boat or that 3/4 boat, whatever, and it sucked. We didn't catch anything. And I'm thinking, well, if that's how you're judging your trip, you're looking at this all incorrectly.
Yeah.
Because ask any one of my regulars, if you're on the boat, you're going to see the good, the bad, and the ugly. If you find a boat and a crew that you like, put your time in, right, and go on that boat. You will see it all. But if you just go on a boat once, you say you go on the Monte Carlo, you have a slow day of fishing. You can't judge the boat by that. Now, if the boat was filthy, the food sucked, and the crew disrespected you, okay, that's a legitimate complaint.
Correct.
Right? But if you just go, well, I had a good time, or I didn't have a good time because fishing sucked, well, okay, but how was your experience, right? Like, was the boat nice? Did they treat you well? Did they try? Effort goes a long ways.
Absolutely. I even, when we were out fishing with you on the Amigo this past, maybe we hit a little slow thing, and I could see you, like, you really wanted it to happen, and I would make it a
quiet,
point.
and I go on the wheelhouse.
And I'd make it a point to say to you, Jeff,
he gets grumpy.
We're having a really great time out here, man. We're really having, and it's not BS,
No,
right?
that's where people are screwing up when they go on a fishing boat. You're not paying to catch fish. You're paying for the experience. You're paying to forget about everything that's going on the beach, politics, whatever's going on in your life that's driving you nuts. Go out on the water. Forget about all that shit. Go catch memories. That's what it's about.
We wish that everyone thought like that, though.
I know.
And Jeff, you mentioned fishing with your dad.
Yeah.
And you may not have caught anything. This guy and I and Patrick, I mean, we've gone to Mexico so many times together or wherever and not caught crap. And we end up saying that was the best friggin' trip we've ever been on.
See, but you're not working, there's no stress when you're fishing, catching nothing. I mean, there is when you're running the boat, but as a passenger, like I went fishing with Jeff, to digress a little bit, in 2015. And he invited me on one of the 976 2-day trips with Earl the Pearl. And I was like, I'll come up there, no problem. So my wife dropped me off, and it was, day one was pretty slow. Day two was by far the best single drop anchor fishing on the Farnsworth that you could ever ask for. I think it was like 150 fish, and there are all those,
those big ones,
20 to 28 pound, 30 pounds, whatever.
He threw one bait.
I caught one fish on one bait, and I think I sat in the galley and drank beers with Martin. And I just walked around the boat and talked shit with Earl, and Jeff was just like, "Why aren't you fishing?" I was like, "Dude, I do this every day,
Yeah.
But it was a nice, relaxing trip. I got to eat cheeseburgers. I didn't have to drive. I didn't have to worry about losing my anchor at the Farnsworth, which he did not, And it was just one of those things. My wife picked me up. I was buzzed. I went home. I was like, that was a killer trip. What'd you catch? Not much.
Same thing. I mean, when I was on the Amigo, I threw that one yellow on up in the bow, and then we went bluefin fishing. And my kids, I'm more interested in taking care of our group, making sure everybody's having fun, and shooting video.
Yeah.
And they go, Dad, are you going to catch a bluefin? I go, I'm good, man. And then Patrick goes, Dad, Philip, go catch one. And I go, all right, what's on that? And they go, 60 pound. I go, okay, now you're talking I don't want to fish anything less than 60. I went up to the bow, literally, underhanded a bait, watched a bluefin come up, boil, eat it. And Patrick goes, are you bit? And I go, yeah. Caught that fish, and then I was good. I was really good.
And then Jeff screaming at you out of the wheelhouse.
Yeah.
Bite and catch them.
They're thick. They're cemented. Friedman's catching one. I heard you.
We've had some great days. Me and Jeff had some great days together, and I love working with him because he always keeps it interesting. Like he's a character.
How did you?
He's
guys...
got a great sense of humor, and on a slow day, he keeps it very interesting.
I've not let much of it out today, so some of it's
why let it out.
No, it's different.
Let it out. Let it out.
How'd you guys link up?
How'd this
start?
What's that?
Your friendship. Where did this start?
On the water.
Yeah, I did start on the water. Jeff. When did you start running Thunderbird? Like
2000. Well, we started running the spring of 2011. When I got on
Jeff
there.
came on the scene, and I didn't really know him, and I really don't know.
You were on the Outrider up until 2013, and then you guys bought the Ultra, And then we kind of
Jeff did a great job, right? Like this kid came on and he's like, he's catching fish.
You guys just started to click out there.
well, yeah, because we just happened to be seeing each other all the time, and it's like, well, if we're just going to keep driving past one another without saying hello, it's kind of awkward, So we started talking, and then we got little bat phones after a while. We call them the bat phone, these digital radios that we use. But we had dispatch prior to that, and 2013 was the start of it for us, and then it's been
It's
ever
been a good
since
ride.
then.
It's been a good experience. Jeff's a great fisherman. He's a great,
Likewise.
He's a great personality. It just works,
Yeah, and we have our ups and downs, Like everyone gets grumpy. Like to go back to like this whole thing started, like attitudes. You get pretty bummed out. Everyone wants to be number one. You always want to catch. I mean, no offense, you always want to catch more than the guy that you're working with. But you don't want to like rub it in his face bad. But if you catch more, you're stoked,
Well,
just because
yeah.
it's a pride thing.
Yeah.
But to you just get in these days because we end up talking to each other more than we talk to our own families, So like, oh shit, Jeff's in a bad mood today. Don't call him, I called him earlier and he sounded pretty grumpy, and then check back a little bit later, a few hours later, hey man, what's going on? Just to put the feelers out.
I've just got to the point, honestly, where I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously I care, but I shouldn't have said it like that.
It's getting easier to take the
It's
helmet,
not.
right?
Yeah, it's not that I don't give a shit. It's just that there's certain things
You've done
know
everything
I
you
just
can do.
can't control. Right?
Sometimes it's just funny now.
Yeah.
and it's never for a lack of effort.
It's
Never for a lack of
Yeah.
But you guys still remain competitive, but good friends, and like you just come to the point where you accept it now,
Well, just
right?
competitive just naturally. But
Yeah.
like it's one of those things where if like you're the guy catching it or the guy calling it in, like you want your guys to get in there, You want to be because you don't want to be the guy that like, let's say I caught a bunch of fish and we worked together and I called him after I had 50 on deck.
That's what I was going to ask you now.
No,
Do you do that or not? Look.
It's pretty
So you
quick,
pull
man.
into an area and you get bit.
The answer
Are
is
you
no.
sitting there for an hour?
No.
And
Never.
hammering
Hell
on them?
no.
Or are you like, hey,
Never.
they're biting, get in here?
Never.
That's
We
because
put
that's
it
the
out.
age-old phrase, and everyone. I mean, not that you're gonna be like labeled that forever, but you don't want to be called a sandbagger. You
Right,
know? If
right.
you called a sandbagger, that means you're basically sitting on a spot,
I know, yeah.
and then by the time the person gets there, it's like, how many do you have on deck? Oh, we got 60 on deck. You're
We
like,
just
so
threw 60 on in the
wait
last
a
5
second.
minutes.
I'm 15 minutes away. Like, when you have like guys lift pulling them on the other side of the boat that I don't see. Like, so we try to like within the anchor going down. There's fish balling around. I'll get back to you in here in a few minutes, and that's normally what you do. And then you go back there, stand on the overhead or stand on the deck, and all of a sudden there's 4 or 5 hanging. You just go, hey, there's 4 or 5 hanging. I'll get back to you in a little bit longer.
Right.
And then once they're in there, I mean, you're close enough to see, like, okay, they're getting them. Put their anchor down.
And sometimes just being honest can make you look really stupid too.
Yeah.
Like we've had that happen. Like, oh, it's
It looks like it's going to
is
really.
it worth coming? Well, yeah, you better get over here. And then you're
They
like,
get there
oh
and
shit, I just called a guy from
20
5
miles
Yeah.
or wherever.
And then you come rolling in, and it's like you just put your last one on. And
But normally, if you're
Yeah.
willing to run 20 miles to get to something like that, you're pretty
You
desperate.
probably got nothing
You're
going on.
desperate at that point. So it's anything, but it does hurt to pull up, and you just see like the little bit of the remnants of the last bit of blood being sprayed off the deck.
Like,
You're not a
here's-
single bent rod. You're all. Oh.
And then here's an example of like helping each other out. Like there was a trip I had that I won't soon forget. I had a 2-day. It was just kind of a nightmare. This was like 2 years ago, and I was all the way out in the Cortez. I was the only, for whatever reason, I was the only boat out that day, and we had my cook had really shorted us on supplies that we needed.
Oh, no.
And it was I'm scrambling to make this work, you
Yeah.
know, and I had called 2 people. I think I called Andrew that's when he had the Prowler.
Yeah.
He was coming out of San Diego, and I called Jeff, and Jeff actually took time out of his day and went and galley shopped for what I needed and brought it to me.
Wow.
I mean, that's a lifesaver. That's
Heck
a lifesaver
yeah.
when you're on a 2-day and you're
You got not enough food?
And he came out and delivered groceries, and I was like, man, I really needed that.
Yeah.
Like that's just.
Do what you got to do, because you never know if you're going to be on the
Other end of
the
that.
other end of that. Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's even if it's just something as minute as a case of eggs. When there's
when
30,
you got
35 people on the boat, and you're like, there's 30 orders, and we got like 1 flat of eggs, like we're screwed. It doesn't
And-
seem like it'd be a huge deal, but it's kind of
It's huge.
It's huge.
because that is what you mentioned a second ago. That's what you can control.
Yeah.
And people know that, and smart people know that they you can't control the fishing and everything, but you can control that. So yeah,
Good point. Smart people.
yeah, true. I know, because some people think you just go out there and order up 50 bluefin and they're there and they bite and that's all there is to it. It's easy.
Yeah.
No, we've had some good times over the years.
What about the fishing? Let's talk about this past year. Freaking, I saw some of the giant bluefin you two guys were catching. I think we've gotten used to this. This is like...
I'm still looking for the 300. We got a few of those under.
Oh, you know what? I met a kid at Big Fish Bait and Tackle who had a 300 with you. Bigger guy, Mexican kid.
Adonis?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think he's
really
on
cool guy. Very
one
cool
of our
guy.
Jeff Price's trip. Yeah, he got a 366.
Yeah, and he had like a 2 something before that, or I can't remember, but
Yeah, I think he got a. God, I'm trying to remember what his bigger one prior to that was, but
He's got a good guy charter. I know Jeff Price.
Yeah.
And these guys are dialed in.
Yeah.
And they charter his boat just to do
and
that.
as far as us operating, like me and Brian, Brian loves the big stuff, and I'm the captain. We just drive around with a blue screen. We look for red stuff. We stop.
Yeah.
Sometimes it bites. That's pretty much what it is, right?
Simplified.
We're amateurs compared to some of these. Like, there's some heavy hitters down in San Diego. These long range guys and some of these multi-day guys that run some of the boats down there as far as kite fishing, and they're fishing 3-4 kites with 6-7 crew members up there doing all sorts of neat stuff that we
Yeah.
can't really do. But we're we slide in there and put on a pretty good show, I think, sometimes.
Yeah.
And we do have one particular group, Jeff Price, and he's got, just looked at the calendar this year, I think he's got 6 2-day trips. So you look down the side of the boat, and it looks like you're going to Clarion or something like
Oh,
that.
my
It's
God.
just the entire...
Big fish or nothing trip.
Yeah,
Right.
they
These
come
guys
down with ice chests full of flying fish, and then they have Ziploc bags with enough rigs to put hooks in every flying fish that lives on the front of San Clemente Island. And when they do bite, it's pretty funny because it's you want to limit how much stuff you have up in the air because it's kind of a nightmare, right?
Yeah, yeah.
You don't want to have like 17 kites or 20 balloons out there because you'd just be tangled up. Well, we kind of look like a carnival on those trips because we do have like a kite and then 4 or 5 guys fishing a balloon, and they're able to do it, which is amazing. And we were talking this year, like, what would actually happen, like, if these things were biting good enough, and we had 6 or 7 rigs out there at the same time, and it happened. And I think we had a drift for, I think it ended up going like 18 for in the low 18 fish over 100 up to like 200 pounds. And
18 out of what? 20 something?
20 hooks.
That's
I think
pretty damn good
we pulled
shooting.
hooks. Yeah, we pulled hooks, and then we ended up with another 18 in the dark that were all those 80 to 120 pounders. But anyways,
Pretty wild.
we had
Yeah.
I think 6 balloons at one point and a kite, and we had all of them bit almost in unison. And at one point we had like 12 hanging, and it's all those 150 to 190 pound fish, and like 12 fish hanging when they're 20 to 30 pounds is kind of hectic sometimes, you know? And I'm just looking around, looking on the bow, and there's like 7 on the bow, and I'm looking in the stern, and then they're still sending, we had a couple guys that weren't bit, and then we're still sending balloons out there. I was like, man, this is, we had just talked about it early in the day, like, what would this look like if all of this gear got bit at the same time? And then sure as shit, it happened. So, I mean, if we never saw it again, at least we can say that we've seen some stuff here, especially since 2015.
It's great when you have the charters that can do that. Like with the Amigo, I have a little bit more flexibility to fish this stuff now because, like, when I was running the Freedom, and that boat, for the most part, that boat's on a one-day schedule throughout the season. And, on a one-day trip, and you got 35 people, it's really difficult. When you have 6 hours to put something together, to stop, put kites up, and hope that you hang 1 or 2, and then basically your whole boat's watching 1 or 2 people.
Right.
You need to be on a minimum of a day and a half or more.
Yeah.
Or have a group that's more dialed into doing that. So now with the Freedom, with the Amigo, I started running the charters now, which I enjoy. I've got some groups that are like, we're okay with that, and if we don't catch a bunch, then we're good with it. It's hard to pull that off sometimes on a one day.
Yeah.
You have to commit,
Yes. The do or die, right?
In the big boats, like you said, same thing. If it's 30, 35 people, what does one fish do for you? If you just happen to be driving around and, doing a yummy flyer on a kite in travel, and all of a sudden you hooked one and, called a number and somebody got to wind it in and just divvied the fish around the passengers, like, that's one thing. But to dedicate a day one-day fishing, kite fishing. Like, it's not applicable.
Are you guys, have you gotten used to this kind of fishing, or does it still dawn on you how incredible it's long range? I mean, I used to say
It's cool, not
it's long
cool.
range fishing, and
It's pretty gnarly.
it's really freaking incredible. I mean,
I don't know how else
you
to-
look around the world at fishing, and I don't know if it gets any better than what we've been.
It's cool,
experiencing.
not cool.
Yeah, it's got its moments, but I mean, when it does bite, and then it was for him, he's coming off of running the Freedom, and they never really got into the kite thing too much on there. And we have a lot more charters throughout the year, a lot of return groups that do these multi-day trips that are kind of into it, that bring the gear. So the last few years, he's like, yeah, maybe we will get a kite. And then all of a sudden he buys the Amigo. And he's like, well, I'm going out there. I'm getting all this kite gear. And he's all pumped up about it. And I was like, trust me, dude. Like once everything comes together and you have everything out there, your rig's perfect, and the bait's fishing good, and it finally gets exploded on, and you pin one, like you're gonna be kind of hooked. And he was kind of into it.
It's cool. It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a lot of work, from not only the investment tackle wise to the time getting the bait if you're fishing flyers, to the rigging them up. You got to
Expensive,
have
too.
all hands on deck, especially when you're fishing on a smaller boat and you've got a limited amount of crew members. It's one thing when you're on a long range boat, you got 5 deckhands, you got a guy dedicated to the kite. For me, I got to have a guy on the tank, I got to have a guy on the kite, I got to have a guy rigging baits. It's all consuming. Then you got 1 or 2 or 3 fish hanging, and you got to get them on the boat, in the fish hold, out of the fish hold. I mean, it's genuinely it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
And if they're biting and everybody's stoked at the end of the day, you got a few, like that Tom Otto trip I had. Yeah, it's well worth it. It's cool. If you're, I've seen over the years where everybody has this big fish bug. They all been bitten by the big fish bug, and they're coming down, and I'm running the Freedom, and we're me and Dave Collar, whoever's working with me, we make this lap around the boat, and we're looking at tackle, and we're like, dude, they don't even have a chance here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, you've got to have the tackle for it.
Let me give you this analogy. It just popped into my head. It might be silly, but I'm going to give it to you. So when I was teaching in China, I would look out at my class, right? This third of the class didn't speak English. The middle part of the class were okay. And this over here spoke fluent English. Try to lecture to that. If you dumb it down, these freaking kids over here are throwing paper airplanes. If you go with too high, then seems to me like when you look down on deck, you got these guys ready for blue perch. These guys can catch yellows, and these guys, and then you got to make a decision based on that. That's tough.
You could be selfish sometimes, though. If you got a few guys can kind of dictate your decision. At least for me, because it's like no one wants to hear about if it's within shot, on a 1-day trip even. Not so much, but like on the day and a half, if it's within shot to go catch a handful of big fish, like, dude, we're doing it. But the boat has the gear for it. So
you're good.
Even if the people don't have it, like it's high. There's a very high likelihood that if you're drifting on a spot 100 to 200 pound fish and people are fly lining sardines, they're probably not going to get bit. So it doesn't matter if they're fishing 10 pound, 2 pound, 200 pound.
Right.
They're going to be maybe on the jigs or the sinker rigs, and that's going to be a little bit heavier line. The people don't have it, and we can hook 1 to 10 fish on the kite and then start calling out numbers. They don't need the tackle.
It's like everybody thinks big fish fishing's cool until you go big fish fishing.
fish.
That's not cool, because you realize
You're sitting around waiting for your number to get called, basically.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like you're just like at the union hall waiting for number 248. You're working the day. You're like, oh crap, I sat around for a week.
now you can get your ass kicked and you paid for it.
Is it kind of almost like the trolling rotation in San Diego, like you used to wait
Pull a
for
number.
right?
We just raffle it. So we'll just take, it's 27 guys on the boat. Just take 27 numbers, 1 through 27, and then some guys, they do a rotation. We like
time rotation.
Yeah, and we like to fish the bait just so we're the ones, making contact with the bait when it's bit. You're buying those flying fish. It's $30 a piece, man.
No,
it's a lot of money going over the side. So if somebody's like sleeping at the wheel and they get bit and they don't wind into it and make connection, we get mad. We can get mad at them. So let's eliminate getting mad at our passengers and try to show them a good time. And we get mad at ourselves if we screw it up. So we'll just call it, reach in there and go number 2. So the night as we're leaving, you would just tell them like, hey, if we catch a fish, if your number's called, you take half the fish. That's yours. The other half, we'll cut it up.
Yeah, we try
try to divvy it around to the other people. And it doesn't really go that far with one fish, but on a day where you catch 10 or 12 of those things,
everybody styled out.
Everyone's pretty pumped,
Yeah.
And they know it going into it. Sorry.
There's something else up here that I don't know why we seem to be able to get away with this, and for whatever reason, it's like this unwritten rule that I don't think the San Diego guys can get away with it. And like he said, there's some guys, and I'm not going to name any names or boats, but there's some guys down there that are really good at what they do. And they're kind of committed to this, whereas up here, it seems like if you're like, just as an example, if you're on a 2-day trip and you're kind of sucking on it, right? At the end of the trip, we can kind of get away with bailing ourselves out rock fishing. I'm sure he'll attest this, right? Like we often have a bailout where like you won't see that, and it can go either way. Like I had a trip and this couple was on the boat, and we had kind of a slow trip. We had a few tuna and a couple yellows, and at the end of the trip, it was a day and a half. We went we say the last 2 hours of the day we went rock fishing. This couple was like, "No, it was really cool, man. We get to go home with some fish. That was enjoyable because you put the time in to do it.
Right.
And when it didn't work out, you let us go catch something. We were on a unnamed boat, and they just fished big fish for 2.5 full days. And I'm like, I get it. That's what they do.
Yes.
And that's so for whatever unwritten reason, it seems like that's just they can't pull that off.
It's like a taboo or something.
It's taboo. Like they're not going rock fishing.
We put ourselves in position, knowing like on a 2-day trip, you catch nothing on day 1. Don't be there day 2.
Yeah, right.
You're going to put yourself in position to, and like I said, even if it's just rockfish, it's a 2-day trip's expensive, man. Like people come out, like if they go home with, a big sack of rockfish fillets and some whitefish or maybe a yellowtail.
On the Amiga with me. You loved that. We caught some
friggin' awesome.
You were like, that was the
right?
best part.
It's instant gratification.
Yeah.
You drop down, you get some bites, you set the hook, and then it's like for the everyday fisherman, like, or not the everyday, for the once a year or the once a month fisherman that comes out, like they want the instant gratification. They might, like you said, it might sound good to go catch a big one until you actually do it and you sit around like this all day long looking at the guys on the overhead fishing the kite, wondering why are we doing this?
Everybody will tell you up front, like, we don't like rockfish, we hate rock, like, not everybody, but a lot of guys will tell you that.
A lot of people
But if you show somebody the helmet long enough,
those rockfish are looking really good, right?
You have to condition people into it,
Yeah.
Like I can, I'm not doing this on purpose, but if I can make these people catch nothing for an entire day, like they're really going to cherish catching something.
But you're right about the San Diego guys. Sometimes they're do or die, and a perfect example is we used to do a 5-day Father's Day trip every year on the Polaris Supreme, and we went down below and had great fishing down at Cedros and everything. And coming back, I went up there and I'm like, Riddler, come on, Tommy Rothery.
Yeah.
Let's put some color in the fish holes, man. Come on. He's like, I don't want to. And I go, come on, man. And he goes, Friedman talked me into. Frickin' man, they reds and lings and
your fish hole of yellows and blues always looks a lot better with some reds and oranges mixed in.
Don't they?
Gotta have
it's
contrast,
like a Christmas
right?
tree,
Yeah.
right? Your Christmas tree is kind of cool when it's all green, but when you start putting little red and green ornaments on it, it really looks nice.
I mean, that was awesome on the Amigo, wasn't it?
My specific memory from that trip is Jessup sticking reds out of the wheelhouse window. I thought that was awesome.
I got video of that, by the way. Yeah, you dropping down a 2-hook canyon and catching some nice fish, and it was funny because you're like up in the wheelhouse winding away.
I think all people that work on boats enjoy good rock fishing, though.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like that. And it's a little bit before my time, but still, like, first started working, that's all we did, in the wintertime, and then it's now, they closed so many things for the longest time, like to 20 fathoms. You couldn't fish outside 20 fathoms when I was still working on the Patriot back in the day. And then they start opening all these areas up that you used to hear about, now we can fish this, and now we can fish, 75 fathoms. Now we can fish 100 fathoms, unfortunately, with 2 hooks. But you get to drop to these great depths of old, that guys used to do back in the 70s and the 60s and catch, let's face it, man, the areas that don't get fished as much, like whether it be the depth or the distance from a harbor, dude, it's better.
Right.
Well, yeah, it is. And it's cool that
are you guys excited about this 100 fathom?
No, not really.
No? Why not?
We don't have the people with the gear. Like, what's the point of dropping a 4-pound weight?
And they didn't give it to us in the areas where we wanted anyways.
Yeah.
I mean, if we had it on Cortez and Cherry and Tanner and
Or just
Osborne.
Let's get the Osborne to 40 though. We need that.
And Nick,
40
yeah,
fathoms on the
I'd
Osborne.
be cool, but they gave it to everybody but us, basically.
Yeah, and 2 hooks, 600 feet for 2 hooks. I mean, let's face it, it's a lot of work. I mean, you're going to need a minimum, 2 pounds of weight?
Yeah.
600 feet
And
with a lot of people on the boat, with 30 people on the boat
Right.
drifting.
Dealing
It's
with
not worth it.
dealing with fish and game nowadays, and any government in this state, you got to have a lawyer with you. I mean, we have to have like a permanent lawyer on retainer just to know what we can and can't do.
Yeah.
It's confusing to you guys, or what?
No, but
Is it confusing to you? Have you watched the news lately?
yeah. I mean, people ask me, and it's like,
a little
yeah,
confusing.
I you know, ask Jeff. You know,
Well,
or-
it's set up to the point now. It's like, so all these, and it's not by fathom curves, you know, like that 75 fathoms. You're like, oh, cool. So I can drive anywhere that's 75 fathoms, and I'm good.
No, it's not
It's a
that.
coordinate. So you got to put it all in. Here's the cool part, and by cool I mean lame. If you don't have these coordinates plugged into your GPS, and for whatever reason you get boarded, fish and game,
you
comes
drift
on there.
off into the wrong
Well,
area.
no,
You're
if
talking
you
about
don't
her.
have them in there, even if you're legal, and they come and they want to see your coordinates plugged in,
What?
you can get a ticket for it.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Dude,
So if you don't have the coordinates to the prohibited areas,
Yeah.
you're screwed if they board you.
Yeah.
I mean,
If they
could-
want to press the issue.
that's
So now we got to go into it's not a big deal to do. It's just, you know, I just like to complain about stuff sometimes. So
well,
just
yeah,
give me-
but I mean, it
We're
seems
good.
like you
We
should
are-
get fined for the stuff you do, not for the stuff you
yeah,
could
so
have done.
It is a law to
That's
have
weird.
it in there, you know. So now we got to go into our plotters, and we're like, you know, it takes a little while to go to every single island and start connecting all these waypoints around, and you got to take the 75s out or just leave them. So you end up just having like, you look at your island when you're looking at your chart plotter, and then it's just black dots all around it, and you're like, where am I going, dude?
Yeah.
It's confusing.
And
I was ready to hype up the 100.
if you fish for a living, I don't care if you're Sig Hansen
Well,
or
I-
Jeff Markland. We are conditioned to complain
Yeah.
about something.
We have
Yeah.
you have to give us that, you know.
I'm giving it to you.
No, it is pretty stupid. Like, I wish, just tell us, hey, man, you can fish 75 fathoms or you can fish 100 fathoms, period.
All
Right?
encompassing.
Let me have this. Take whatever you want. Tell me I can only have 5 reds or I can't keep a cowcod fine. Just give me 100 fathoms or 75. I'm cool with it. Right?
Yeah, yeah.
Like, we've always had that reserve outside of, well, now we have 40, but before we had, certain places we had 20. We're not hurting anything. We're just scratching, right?
Yeah.
But you always had that fishery that was out in 60, 70 fathoms that was basically untouched.
Right.
So,
Yeah, I would love to get back to. I mean, when I was a kid, I fished Tanner commercially. Oh my god, the sweet spot for reds for us was like 45 to 65 fathoms.
Yeah,
10
right where we can't fish.
Yeah, oh man, was that good out there?
Yeah.
10
Really
and
good.
gaff blanks.
But I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
he mentioned too, it's that areas like, and I know maybe it's in the works. I don't know. I have some insider information on some of the things that they're working on sometimes, but like the Osborne Bank, how is that any different? The Osborne has a lot of fishable area inside of 40 fathoms. It's right next to Santa Barbara Island. Like, it would be a destination spot for us. You know, that would be awesome if we could have that.
Right.
I mean, it really helped out at Santa Barbara Island open that 40 fathoms. I'm sure it helped. They're up at Nick more than we are. You don't have to look over your shoulder and worry about, like, if you step down on deck and do a drift and all of a sudden you step back up
Drifted
there.
into the wrong area.
Yeah, you drifted over the line by 2 feet, and that's illegal.
And they'll write
Yeah.
you for that, too.
Yeah,
That's,
2 feet.
They're not going to come on the boat and be like, hey, man,
We understand you were down
just
on
be
deck.
careful, right? And no.
Yeah.
It's like, we're throwing the book at you.
Yeah.
Really?
So it's- and most of the guys are cool. I'm not going to talk bad about our government agencies or state agencies that we have to work with on a daily basis, but most
Jeff
of the
looks like he's ready to
well,
talk
most
back.
of the experiences that I've had with them are all right. I've obviously been to court for a couple little deals and got to take the Catalina Flyer thing over there and have a nice little day in court.
It's the only job I know that you can go to and actually end up with a legal case just by going to work. It's true.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, like, I was just talking to John the other day about this. These guys, we check licenses. We have to.
Right.
So if you come on any one of these boats, when we sign you in on the Freedom, when you board the gate on the Pursuit, or you board the gate on the Monte Carlo, the crew is going to check your license.
Right.
Sometimes guys have a fit about that. The end of the day, the reality of it is, he's going to get a ticket.
Right.
I'm going to get a ticket, and I'm going to be the one driving to Catalina Island like I just did to go to court
Because somebody didn't have a
because
license.
somebody didn't have a license. It's not worth it to me. I don't care if you gripe. Gripe to the government. It's not our fault. We get a ticket for you. If you got the ticket, I don't care if you have a license or not. That's not my business.
Right.
Right? But if you're telling me I have to be responsible for 35 adults, right? Like I'm a babysitter.
Yeah, right.
Okay. I'm going to go to court. I'm going to pay the fine. I got to hire the lawyer.
Not to mention if something happens throughout the day, you got gunny sacks hanging around the rail. And like you said, it's hard to keep track of 10 people, let alone 30, 40, or 50. Crew members do their best to make sure that like everything that's coming over the rail
Is legal.
it's legal. It's measured. Throwing it in the bags or throwing it in the milk crates and then it's going down in the fish hold, what have you. You can't be everywhere at once. So, for example, somebody throws a 12-inch bass in the bag and you didn't know about it. You're spraying the boat off and all of a sudden you see Fish and Game coming with their skiff and the guy comes on the boat. I get the ticket.
Yeah, there's something wrong with that, isn't
Isn't
there?
that
Doesn't
weird?
seem right.
Well, I mean,
Yeah,
you're
and that's-
accountable
it's
for
my-
another human being's actions.
Yeah.
We are the master of the vessel, so I get that part. So maybe we just you take the rap for it. But how is it my crew member's fault and then ultimately my fault for what someone else did? But when you sign that passenger commercial fishing license, you sign your name on it. You're basically saying that I'm taking responsibility.
I could see if you had 10 around on 9-inch bass.
Right.
You're kind of
You're aware of
responsible,
that.
right? You knew that was going
one.
on. But when you're not all things to all people at all times. If one guy throws one in the bag
Right.
and you didn't see it, maybe you were in the wheelhouse filling out your log or talking on the radio or checking your machinery or whatever, and now all of a sudden you're responsible for that.
Yeah, that doesn't
I
seem
don't-
right
I'm
to
not
me.
But
buying.
then in the passenger's defense, what if somebody else stuffed it in his bag so that the Fish and Game couldn't go, well, number 9, you got a short bass in your bag. The guy's like, well, I've been in the bunker room all day. Or I didn't fish all day, or like that's not my bag,
Yeah.
So you couldn't really pin it on the person, so maybe that's why they pin it on the captain. So you're taking responsibility for everyone that might deny it. It's all on you.
That's just another layer of stuff that you guys got to deal with,
a
right?
lot,
That people
but-
aren't aware of.
He's got a great crew on the Amigo, and the Freedom's got a great crew. It's a lot to handle, and I have a great crew. Those guys behind the scenes, like that kind of stuff, like they're dealing with a lot. Like in the moves, they're taking fish out of the gunny sacks, stapling numbers on them, like rock fishing, like putting individual numbers on rockfish or making stringers. And you're like, okay, how much time is it going to take you? Because I got a spot coming up. And those guys are just, busting their ass.
We try
all
to
day
play.
long.
All these sport boat operators, I'm going to vouch for our industry. We all try to play by the rules.
Yeah.
Right? Like, we're all here to make a living.
Yeah, of course.
We're not, like, anti-environmental Nazis. We want to make a living. We just want to be left alone, run our operations. You
Right.
know, we're not the enemy.
It just gets a little much sometimes.
It gets a little much at times. You know what I'm saying? So, and I brought this up to him, too. This is kind of switching gears here a little bit, is that moving forward into the future, I mean, honestly, for our area north of San Diego, me and this guy are like, the senior state spokesman at this point. I mean, there's some.
You guys are getting old.
Well, there's some good guys in
You got
San
gray in
Diego,
your beard,
but
Markland.
Oh, I know.
I'm telling
I
you,
dye mine.
go to some of these SAC meetings. You should go.
Yeah.
Inform people, because like up north, you got Joe V. He's involved.
Yeah.
He's really involved in a lot of this, and he does a fantastic job. And Jamie,
Joe.
You had Jamie here the other day.
Yeah, Jamie.
And in our area, a lot of the guys that are representing us
They're older.
are older, like significantly older. Like Wiggy's involved. I mean, Ken Frankie does a great job. He does.
Yeah.
Ken Frankie's outstanding guy. I appreciate everything that he does for us. He's got his plate full, man. And you get up here and you got, like the guys that represent us or his father-in-law. You got Wiggy. You got Donnie Ashley. You got Don Hansen. I mean, some of these
They're
guys,
getting old.
they're all good guys, but they're all getting older.
There has to be a passing of the torch.
There has to
eventually.
be a passing of the torch. And I think me and this guy have done this long enough and been involved in this that, I would see maybe a little bit of more political involvement in the future.
For both you guys?
I'm not
Are
speaking
you thinking
for
about
him,
that?
I would think so eventually.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to get involved. My family, as far as my wife, last name is Thompson. He talked about Wiggy.
Why don't you explain that a little
Mike
bit?
Thompson.
Yeah.
Wiggy was his nickname and still is his nickname. Ran the Amigo out of
Mike owned the Amigo forever.
Dana Point, Newport Beach, Fisherman's Landing. He's partners with a couple other folks, Jim and Pam Watts, with Newport Landing,
Right.
and they own Davies Locker as well. He ran a boat for 50 years. He's actually renewing right now for his 11th issue, so it's
Wow.
going to be 50 plus now. He's really involved with all the SAC stuff. He does the rockfish survey trip every year on the Aggressor, which works with the Tornado and the Mirage as well, and all that data that they've done over the last, I think it's got to be close to 15 years now. All of that data has helped us, get 20 fathoms back, 40 fathoms.
Right.
But it's science.
Yes.
So they shut it down without science, and then it takes science. And
To open
look
it.
how it takes one day to shut something down, and it takes 15 years to progressively open it back up. And I'd like to get involved,
I think there's a necessity for it, but again, you're taking rough around the collar fishermen, and now you're going to turn us into politicians.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Well,
so
but
we got to learn the bureaucracy a little bit, but I think
we've seen in current events people that were not politicians assume some leadership in this country, so it can happen.
Yeah.
And you guys
And they
have
did
the
good
knowledge.
jobs.
you have the knowledge that is really, really necessary. Like, for example, the 5-fish vermilion rockfish thing. There's a lot of people, oh, crap, blah, blah, blah. But I talked to Jamie Diamond.
it had to be done.
And she told me that they were talking about zero.
It was a compromise.
And nobody knows this.
Yeah,
So-
no, there's so many things that go on that people don't know.
That was a
and Ken
compromise.
Frankie and Sack and everybody, they said, look, there's some empirical evidence here that there's enough vermilion rockfish to, and they got that. So the 5 vermilion rockfish is actually a great thing.
They say likelihood within the next few years it would likely, with people fishing the same amount but catching less of them, it will likely go back to 10. I think the biomass of the vermilion rockfish, from what I can understand, I can't say exactly 100% sure, but coming off of those rockfish survey trips, it's the most they've ever seen in all the areas where they never used to see it. And it's just
great.
every single
Why
year.
we got punished for that, I'm not sure.
I
but-
just think it's the numbers that were turned in on logbooks and such over the last few years. It's been this thing like you go out rock fishing, everyone wants to turn in, I've got to turn in my red snapper. When, and that came back to bite us now because everyone turned in the red snapper when you should have just been calling them
Rockfish.
miscellaneous rockfish. You can fill out on your logbook, there's 40 rockfish, and if you really wanted to go through there and fill them all out, or you can just fill them out as rockfish. But everyone wants to do the reds.
They want them all specifically by species
Yeah.
now. So when you're filling out your log at the end of the day, they're keeping tabs on precisely what
Yeah,
you caught.
right.
But it
So what I'm
technically
saying
is a miscellaneous rockfish, and that got all of us kind of in trouble.
Yeah.
Well, what he's saying, I think we're trying to say is, with our involvement in this, maybe we can help. Like I said, I mentioned Joe V, but I know he was instrumental in some of this rockfish stuff, and maybe we, at some point, pass the torch and start helping with this, because I have enough invested into this industry at this point. I want to keep running a boat, but I've got some good young guys coming up that are going to start taking the reins here soon, which kind of lets me do other things to protect my assets. I stand to lose quite a bit. All of us do.
But
Right.
you want your boats to run, and if you're not involved, if something does happen to get shut down and you weren't involved, then you can blame yourself for not stepping in. Or I
Exactly.
can blame myself. Rhetorically, we can blame ourselves for not doing anything. I don't really have the time to quite step in there right now and do it. But
sometime in the future, you
if
can
given
envision doing
if given
that.
the opportunity to start sitting in on some meetings or something like that, I just, I need to start probably.
He said you'd like to attend those.
I'm
meetings, actually.
really I like getting scientific on a lot of stuff. I like looking at the science behind things. The seal population is out of control. I like trying
The
to
seal population, after Dave Hansen screamed at you for saying seal.
Sea lion. I'm sorry.
Oh my God.
But yeah, just
That's a
That one's never getting
That's a
touched.
losing argument.
That's
You'll
a-
never.
that's a-
That's over with, right?
That's a
Well,
do you
marine
guys
mammal
think there's
protection-
anything you can do? There's
Well-
nothing you can do?
Well, there's something-
legally? No.
At the Aquarium of the Pacific, they sell little dolls. that-
People are playing
things that
God
come
now,
out.
right? Like
Right.
they come down on you for this and that, but like you can't. It's almost like they want it both ways. Like fish stocks are down, MLPAs, right? Now we're gonna have closures. Well, you can't have an overabundance of one thing and have it balance out in
There's
the
no
ecosystem.
checks and balances.
There's no checks and balances, right? So like even when I'm trying to think of the word, when things start to die off, you cull a herd, right?
Mm-hmm.
Survival of the fittest, the Darwinian principle of
They don't even let natural selection take place.
Yeah, right.
So now these people come down with all these sea lions that wash up because there's too many of them because they can't feed themselves. Then they take them up here and they
Nurse them
all back to health and spend hundreds of thousands of dollars nursing sea lions when we have a homeless population that I could spit to from here, right?
Yeah.
I could probably use that money.
Some of those guys are vets.
Over a sea lion.
Now you're putting all this money into rehabbing sea lions that were natural selection. They needed to go away for a reason. Now you're putting them back, you're reintroducing them back in, and the population just grows exponentially, right? It's out of whack. We don't have the apex predators anymore like we used to that feed on them.
Not enough of them anyway, right?
Not
enough
enough
to make a difference.
Yeah, right.
And it throws things out of whack. I mean, yes, I agree with you, and I'd be the first one to jump up and down. The sea lion population on this coast is a tremendous problem to our fishery. I think it does more damage than it will ever get credit for.
And you guys say it's a losing proposition because there's a big part of the public that thinks
it's a federal deal, and it sounds like
it's a feel-good thing, worse than being federal.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a feel-good thing. So, they're cute, they're cuddly.
Yeah.
Andre, this is
Not really, but
well, up north they're trying to start to do something, but it's almost like the damage is done.
Yeah, do you see them in the rivers?
They have, these are ancient runs of steelhead and salmon and stuff like that, and they're like, oh crap, now we have to protect them.
Yeah.
Why didn't they do that 50 years ago?
Yeah, right.
Our salmon population is down.
And what is taking one problematic sea lion out of a lock or a salmon ladder going to do to the scheme of things when there's hundreds and hundreds of thousands of them? Like, it might make you feel real good to hear that the fishing game up in Washington killed an 800-pound sea lion on the river, but trust me, there's plenty more to replace that guy.
Yeah.
And just like there is here, I mean, we see them sometimes, and there's sea lions that we have at the island, and there's more. It used to be like
we name them
a sea lion.
They have names now.
Yeah, but now it's a showstopper. You show up at a spot, and there's you see that big knothead pop his head up.
You got to drive away.
You're like, dude, come
We're
on.
done.
Yeah.
Well, there used to be certain things that they wouldn't like. Like they always like bonita or eat your yellowtail or your game fish, right?
Yeah.
But they wouldn't bother you when you were doing other things. Now, like, it's difficult to even throw back a short bass.
Oh, I know.
And get it away. You almost have to put them in the bait tank, which you can't do
because then you're
because now you're transporting, or you're gonna get a ticket because you have a short bass on the boat. But in the interest of releasing them safely, you could put them in your bow bait tank or whatever and drive a mile down the island and then shovel them over the side. But what I'm saying is now they're eating rockfish off the ganyons when you're winding them up, or they're eating little sheephead things they never used to eat, right?
We see them in the kelp line sometimes free hunting perch and bass. Like
we never used to see that.
When I first started running a boat, I don't think we ever saw anything like that,
I don't know how you address this problem, but it is a problem. Like if for the benefit of your fishery, and I know they were all, that was kind of the point of the MLPAs, is to have this healthy kelp forest ecosystem.
Yeah.
Well, all you did was,
I think that's how you approach it. If
you
can approach
can't
it
have
that
it
way,
both ways. You can't
explain it that way. I think
Well, the problem is with those systematic, just small closures that come in. You have half the island that's closed here, for example, the whole island had 100% fishing pressure, and now half of it's closed. Now you're focusing 100% of fishing pressure on the open part of the island. So what does that do to that? So when they start doing a data sampling or a stock assessment for that part of the island, it's just more ammo to say, well, this part's overfished. Well, yeah, you close half of it.
We have to fish there.
Where are we supposed to go? You look at the fishery down in Laguna Beach that those guys used to have, for commercial fishing, and from Abalone Point to I think it's Aliso Pier now, where Aliso Pier used to be. That was prime area for a lot of lobster guys and half day boats. There's kelp lines, reefs, all sorts of stuff to fish, and now you have that area that's completely closed. So now those Dana Point guys are just forced to go down the coast every single day.
Yep.
And now the Newport guys are forced to go more or less up the coast every single day.
Yeah.
And you're focusing all the same amount of pressure in a smaller area.
Yeah.
And then obviously fishing's not as good as it was coastal like it was 15 or 20 years ago when I first started. And that was still, in the glory days of barracuda and sand bass. And I mean, I think
it's a combination of things. I think he's right with some of that, but I still think these sea lions have a tremendous
they're a major factor for sure
to do with
they
it.
Have
nothing's going to show up. Would you show up to dinner if somebody was going to stand there and beat you over the head with a baseball bat? No, you'd go somewhere else.
He
right?
does that to me all the time.
Why would a school of barracudas settle in on the horseshoe when there's 10,000 starving sea lions
Right.
waiting for him. They're not
Right.
going to go there.
Somebody did some study in Ireland once about house cats and the effect on the environment, and it really added up. So I mean, sea lions are more voracious than any dumb cat, and
Well, yeah,
you
they're
can see
smart.
right.
They're really smart.
And I'm not gonna lie, and he gets mad at me when I say it or doesn't see eye to eye on it, but it is a cool animal. If you can just look past and like not be a sport boat operator.
But Jeff
or,
was smiling about this. Yeah.
well, no, I mean you look at them in the water and they're cool. I mean,
They'd be cool if there was like 5 of them.
But you know what I'm
Spread
saying?
out
Like,
amongst the coast. Be like,
they
oh,
do
that's
like
kind of cool.
They do neat stuff and like they swim around all cool like and do little tricks and stuff. And it's a neat animal. I don't want them ruining my day. I don't want
Right.
I don't want a sea lion problem on one part of the island dictate how I'm gonna plan my day. You know,
Yeah.
you go to San Clemente Island, you got the
Here's how cool they
military
are.
closures to worry about, and then you got certain parts of the island that are like sea lion strongholds.
I
you're
take my
screwed.
my Phil Friedman charter, right? Spring sea bass special. We stay up all night. We
Yeah.
make a tank of squid. We get over to the island. The conditions are perfect. Current's going the right way. We anchor up. Oh, this is going to get with it, right? Fish start biting. My charter master, who hasn't caught a sea bass in 25 years, hooks his 40-pounder that he wants, and Bobo swims away with it in his mouth. You're disappointed. I'm pissed off. That's how cool they are.
Yeah, they're really cool.
As an animal,
Hey, by the way, Philip, I've screwed this whole interview up because Philip said,
Let's talk about something funny.
well, no, he said the first thing that I should ask you guys is, have you ever saved anybody at sea? Because I
That
asked
was a
Mark
great show,
Paisano
Phil.
that. Did
I'm
you
glad.
see that?
No.
he told me because
You got to see
apparently
this.
I committed to coming to this. I guess during the season,
Yeah, and you forgot all about it?
and I was
Get
talking on
your-
the phone, and Brian's like, I think Brian overheard it, or I just happened to bring it up. He's like, you committed to him on the radio earlier this year. I was like, I don't remember that. He's like, you did. I was like, okay, whatever. So if he told me I'm going to be
He
here,
doesn't like coming up here. He likes me to go down there. So I don't drink with these Newport guys anymore. They take you down there, and it's a trap.
it's a trap anywhere if
They,
you drive
they get you
30
drunk,
miles.
and then they
And then,
send you home.
Oh, I thought
I
they
took
did.
this- I
Thank
took-
God they don't do something else.
I take
to you.
this little Mark Paisano down here.
Given the
This-
opportunity,
He has it. What did we have that party? We had a party at his house.
Yeah,
It was-
Memorial Day.
It was like an anti-COVID party or something. So we go down there and
It was killer.
yeah, we got the bonfire going. Everybody shows up. There's a bunch of people there, right? We're eating, drinking, and we got little baby Paisan there, and I don't know what he drank.
He had like two Zimas or something
Two
like that.
Zimas or two Trulies, right? They talk about bringing a kid into the lion's den.
Oh my
We're
God.
just getting warmed up. We just get the bonfire going. We're starting to drink. Little Mark's just passed out, face down on the table over there, snoring.
Yeah, and it's like
puddle of drool.
1:30 in the afternoon.
Yeah, It's like, we're breaking them in, right? But your show with Paisan and Strouser,
You gotta watch this.
Great job.
Tell me
man.
about it. I'll
Like,
check it
that was good.
That
a
was
good show.
unbelievable, wasn't it? We couldn't believe how
Great
that
story.
all unfolded.
But no, the way you
Jeff.
did it, I think, like just the way you planned that out.
well,
you
we were
guys
trying to
planned it.
figure that out and trying to come up with it. Philip at first suggested we do it out there, and my thing was it's gonna, here you got cameras.
It was
And so you're not
emotional,
gonna
man.
miss
It was.
anything.
It was
It
good.
really was, man. You got to see this.
I'll check it out.
Seriously.
Yeah, you gave me the full details of it. But back to what you were saying, saving lives.
Yeah, have you ever done that? Because maybe we'll have another one.
I don't know if we necessarily saved them, but we had to.
I don't know if he wants to talk about this. I don't want to speak for him, but he had a medical episode on the boat that I happened to be right there.
Oh
for.
yeah, that was a bummer. We
That
had a
was,
guy
and I know that affected him because
pass away on the boat, and we had an RN on the boat that's one of our regulars, and then crew members that were giving it to him CPR wise for 45 minutes, but it ended up being a lost cause. And that sucks, but you
Yeah, of
know you're
course.
going to be there for that as an
Did
operator.
that have is that still with you?
I think you don't like think about it on a daily basis,
Yeah.
but I think it's in your mind that you're taking other people, you're taking
Yeah.
passengers out, so eventually you're going to be placed in a situation where it's probably going to happen
Yeah,
again if you're
yeah.
out there enough.
You do
You have
this
the
long
airlifts
enough.
and whatever, but we did have one particular trip when we were fishing Pyramid Head on the end of the island there, and Jeff knows it just as much or more than anybody else. The current's really strong sometimes. It runs off the tip of that island at 3-4 knots, wouldn't you say?
Oh yeah.
And it hooks in there.
Oh yeah, at the pyramid. Yeah,
right
It
at Pyramid.
gets
And we're
smoking.
sitting there, and we're actually hooking a few yellowtail, losing a couple, getting a couple, and the current it's raging. That's 30 guys on the boat, and all 30 lines are basically going in a 2-foot section. That's how fast
Like-
the current goes.
wow.
So it's like eddies off the back of the boat.
Yeah.
Like
And
Guadalupe.
Yeah.
current.
Looking at these guys on the reef, and they're like struggling. They got sucked around the corner and off the tip of the island from the front of the island. And there's like a little hook just on the other side of Pyramid. You can get in there. It's calm, and the current pushes you against the cliff. Well, once you get outside the cliff, that reef runs out, and that ridge drops off to 20 fathoms, and then it just sweeps you down to Mexico, I guess. I don't think it goes
Wow.
that far down there, but it was going. So I see these guys, and they got the big, gnarly, look like almost like blue water type, like spearfishing fins or whatever you call them. I'm not a diver, but big old flapper fins, and they're not making headway. They're going as fast as they can and like slowly moving.
What's your
towards
thought
us.
process now? I got to keep watching
Well,
these guys, or
At first, it's just you're kind of looking at it because they're kind of close. We don't want guys like casting up the side and hitting them and stuff. And then a few minutes later, I kind of see them and like they're struggling. The guy stops kicking for a while, and then he starts floating away, and then he starts kicking again, and like kind of makes it up a little bit. And it finally comes, dawns on us like, dude, these guys are they're gonna get swept down off the island. Now, would they have died? Probably not. Somebody on the boat would have noticed them eventually, but. Finally tell the guys, he starts waving at us. Can you come? You want to come over to the boat? We can have you swim over here. We'll drop a ladder. We got one of those boarding ladders we can drop. And the guys, okay, we're going to come to the boat. So he ends up kicking over towards the boat. We got to throw him a line, and the current was so strong that when he grabbed the line,
oh god,
that it planed him
Really?
onto the surface, like
That's
grabbing
amazing.
somebody's arm in a river.
that's
like in the
freaking
movies.
amazing.
And it ended up being him. And I was like, hey, here's the deal. You stay on the boat, but I'm not going to go drop you off we're fishing. I have passengers. He's like, yeah, no problem. And then I see his buddy, and he waves his buddy. And so we get that guy on the boat. So eventually it's kind of, the bite stops. Maybe the current was too strong at that point. And get the anchor up, go back to their mothership. And the guy on the mothership puts his hands up to me like I'm encroaching on his spot. I was like, hey, we have something of yours if you want, And he goes, what are you talking about? And he sees his buddies, and he's like, wow. He didn't even notice. And it was like 45 minutes has elapsed.
That's pretty
These
scary.
guys could have been 2 or 3 miles off the
They've
end of the
been dead.
island. Or dead. Or,
Yeah.
like I said, I don't think they would have died. Maybe they would have.
Maybe they would have.
We've seen some interesting shit over
And,
the years.
yeah.
You just, like you said, you drive, you do this long enough, you drive enough people around, you see things, you're involved in things, sooner or later something's going to happen. I personally have been pretty lucky throughout my career as far as like medical things. I mean, I've had to get people off the boat for reactions to medication or lack thereof or whatever, but I've never to the extreme of like, doing compressions on a guy or anything. But
Jeff saved my life.
He did.
well, I saved your
How?
life, but that was,
When I was working for him, the only person that taught me how to fish was you.
Oh,
So he actually taught me the real way how to do it.
Oh, boy.
see?
you're supposed to laugh now. Oh, do you have a laugh track, Steve, that you can put on?
The
During that
applause.
really late.
Steve might as well just shut my mic up. I'm so captivated by these two. I'm just sucked into their
And
conversation.
if you notice, the executive producer, Steve,
Yes.
he's a great guy. He put fishing currently because sometimes I get lost. You're in the yard, aren't you? There's nothing
We're out
going
of the
on.
yard.
So let's just look out to spring. What's going to be going on the what do you hope is going to happen, and how can people get prepared for it?
I hope we have a year where we can all just run. Hopefully this
We hope the price of fuel bottoms
we're still
out.
dealing with that.
hopefully this COVID bullshit goes away and this mask bullshit goes away. And it's a federal law now. The masks are required by passengers and crew. It's something that we have to enforce. Not saying that we didn't enforce it before, but now it's at a point where it's
And if you don't like it, you can snitch on your neighbor.
yeah, you can actually report your neighbor.
We're
for not
getting
wearing a
political
mask.
now,
Yeah.
but
Well,
keep going.
anyways, I just hope it's one of those deals where hopefully it doesn't progressively get worse and they shut us down again, because we all dealt with that and we pretty much learned that we're expendable. Sport fishing is one of those things that apparently no one really cares about, because they didn't even know that we existed when this whole thing happened. And it took a lot of involvement from names like Ken Franke and some folks up the line, down the line. I had a lawyer buddy of ours and a fishes on a charter, Tony Beal, that helped us out big time with getting in hold of the county and stuff like that. And I really hope we don't have to do that again.
So, but on the fishing thing, spring, here's some, you guys know this probably. The Mexican seiner fleet reached their quota.
It's been like that for
several
the last
weeks ago.
Been like that for the last few years.
How
So
big
There's a
is that?
tremendous amount of
So they're
bluefin
done.
on
There's-
this coast.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm sure. I mean, if I was guessing, man, I don't make predictions anymore because it's
Yeah, we got to get a Super Bowl prediction too. Even though this will air after, we'll get that next.
Well,
What's the fishing?
best prediction I
I
ever
predict
heard.
that by the time the game's over, I will be quite buzzed.
I'm sure that's true.
Anyhow,
Anywho,
I think we'll see bluefin again this year. Everybody keeps saying it's going to be a cold water year. Maybe hopefully we catch some sea bass. I hope fuel doesn't skyrocket. I hope our insurance company doesn't raise the prices on us. That's all we hope
I hope
for.
we carry people.
Okay.
Hopefully the weather's good.
Anybody have a prediction on albacore? Because I've been talking to some experts who say that door is starting to open. That there's a high probability if this La Nina persists.
When I bring one in on the deck, I'll tell you what I think.
I hope
then
it's
they're
on one of
biting.
our charters, man.
Yeah,
I miss
could
those
be.
things.
Could be.
I miss those things.
See, everybody watching, you can get on Phil's trips. We got trips coming on the Amigo.
Hey, let me ask you a question. Since we have a sponsor, is fluorocarbon important in some?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I tuna fishing
Why?
for sure.
Yeah.
I've seen definitely guys that you could probably have like a scientific data of it or whatever. He could grab a rod with 30-pound tests, straight mono, over and over again and not get a bite. And then a guy puts fluorocarbon on, same guy, and can get a bite right
Wow.
away.
Okay, so
It works.
Yeah.
It definitely works. I think people also, too, with it, you're fishing, like you're in the zone. You fish with confidence. Like when you get down.
You're right about
and
that.
you're fishing and like you just can't get bit and everyone's getting bit around you and you're just like, you get all mad and you start grabbing baits all mad, casting all mad, backlashing. And it makes a difference. I think people go into it like with a fluorocarbon. It's like, I have fluorocarbon, They feel all proud,
And it works.
And it works,
Yeah.
I think when the fish are really biting,
It doesn't
you
matter.
probably don't need it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, right.
when it's a pick bite,
Bluefin
and-
fishing for sure. It's like,
Yeah.
that's hands down. Like,
I mean, if
gotta
you
have it.
can watch 10 guys fishing on the stern and 2 of them have fluorocarbon, the rest don't, and they continually, get bit, there's probably something to it that, fishing's not all luck. There is a certain amount of luck involved in fishing, but it does help if a guy knows how to pin a bait on right or
cast it properly.
or select a good bait, or if he's savvy enough to fish the swing on the boat or whatever the case may be. There's all those factors. It's just like it's not fishing. There's some luck, but it's not.
No.
But the
Go
point
ahead.
I'm getting at is if a guy is using that and it's a pick bite, then yes, it works. Absolutely.
Hey, somebody's talking in my ear. Hold on one second. Los Angeles Times is here. I don't have anything in my ear, but the LA Times is going to cover the Paisano podcast.
Yeah.
So they're here. They're going to take a photo. I want to give you a chance to plug your boat. Tell us about the boat. Tell us how people can get in touch with you. Or is that you're in competition with him?
we're not in
competition with him.
Can you edit
It's-
that out when he? Yeah,
He's
no,
got-
he's
we're-
going to edit it
he's
out.
got-
Go through the motions.
He's got a bigger following.
We
than-
all work together.
Then all of us.
We call each other
Yeah.
up and figure out what we're going to do price wise and try to we want to be competitive. We don't want to undercut each other, even though there's a 35-minute distance with no traffic between us on a freeway. If we don't run, we'd like to send our people his way or down to Dana Point with Marcus. And it's been vice versa. If the Freedom doesn't happen to make it out and there's dudes that want to come down to Newport Beach, they do. They've sent them. Red gets on the phone and, yeah, these guys are coming down, or
That's cool.
cancel the reservations early in the day. Thunderbird's running or vice versa. The Freedom's running. We start running March 1st. Still limited load, 27 passengers, and we're starting at $200. And I believe it's $220 on the weekends. You can get a hold of Davies Locker. Either call them. It's 949-673-1434, I believe. I have a link in my bio on Instagram at Thunderbird Jeff. Facebook,
got his own
Thunderbird
website.
page. Thunderbird page has a book now option. You can pull up the schedule. Obviously, for February, it's just going to show the date that you're leaving, and then you can click over to the March calendar, and we're currently taking reservations.
Beautiful, Jeff.
Yeah, if you guys haven't seen the new boat, they got a new boat.
Yeah, newer boat.
It's nice.
75 by 22. We have
Fiberglass.
2 bunk
Oh.
rooms, fiberglass, a little bit more creature comforts, air conditioning in the bunk room, a nice big double galley, an overhead, a little bit bigger bait tank, same loser crew members, including myself, but
He's got his own website too.
Freaking
He's
awesome.
marketable.
No,
Just Jeff EM.
No, Jeff EM. Yeah, we'll save that for maybe another podcast if I get
Yeah,
invited.
no, you guys are definitely gonna have to come back.
You wanna break through the barrier? You got to have some alcohol laid out. We'll have a good podcast where we all sit here and.
There you go.
I'll plan it better, and I'll
drink in front of the
I'll
XL.
Uber up here, and then maybe I can sleep on Jeff's couch or something like that. But
We got one right here.
I
Yeah,
got some, I got some
Our green room.
Super Bowl cooking to do today. I'm
Yeah.
baking bread actually too.
Baking bread. That
Yeah.
sounds good.
Renaissance man.
Yeah, really. You are. Jeff, Migo?
You guys know the deal. 22ndstreetlanding.com. We got the Monte Carlo. I'm involved in the Monte Carlo, the Freedom, and the Amigo. The Monte Carlo is running currently. It is the only boat out of the landing running right now as this thing's being filmed. We're currently on a 10 to 4 schedule every day, including weekends, I believe, until March. So you can get a hold of the landing and book online for that. They're currently just fishing, sculpin. Until the Rockfish opener. The Freedom we were hoping to have online by March 1st. It may or may not be ready. Same thing, 22ndstreetlanding.com. You can go to Freedom Sport Fishing. We have a Facebook page. And then for our charters on the Amigo, which I will be on this year, Mark Paisano Jr. is going to be running the boat a little bit this year too. You can get a hold of Aaliyah. Go to amigosportfishing.com. Aaliyah's number is in there. She runs my office, and she will set you up with a date. And our dates are filling. We got some good traction with the boat last year. So
Fantastic. This show will be over by the time the Super Bowl will be over by the time people tune in, but I want you to make a fool out of yourself, both of you. Super Bowl prediction. Who wins?
I don't even really know who's playing, to be honest with
Yeah,
you.
me either. You're just for the food. Huh?
Here's what I normally do on games because I'm not like
Flip a
big
coin?
sport enthusiast. No, like if I'm at a bar or something like that, having some drinks and get a little bit of courage, start talking a little bit of shit. You figure out who everyone's rooting for,
And root for the other team?
You root for the other team, but then when their team actually wins, then you root for them again, and you try to like really mess with their heads a little bit. So try to be like a piece at first, and then you be a fair weather fan the second time. And
I
then
love it,
They
man.
lose a lot of respect for you. It's
I'm
great.
not. I don't. I'm like you with pro football. I don't. I'm a college guy.
I'm kind of going for I'm kind of on the
Brady thing?
the Brady wagon.
Yeah,
'cause
I like that
He's
too.
just so amazing,
Yeah,
man.
true,
I mean,
true.
They got rid of him and his age, and he goes to this other team, takes him to the Super Bowl. I mean, I think the guy's incredible.
You want to guess a score or anything?
No,
Oh, come on.
no
Come
scores.
on. Who's playing the Bucks? I say Bucks.
We're gonna have a good time today.
38.
We're going to Paisano's house. We're gonna have a barbecue. We're gonna drink all of his alcohol. We're gonna mess his house up, and then we're gonna come back and do it again.
Sounds like a winner. All right, boys. Thank you very much. The Jeff and Jeff show. We're going to have to do
Awesome.
this again.
For sure, man. I appreciate it.
All right. Make sure you follow us on Instagram, Facebook, subscribe on YouTube, and hit the, what do you call it? The alarm?
Like button.
Yeah.
Notifications.
Notifications. And if you're interested in freshwater fishing, go to Bass Bros on YouTube. That's this guy and his brother, as well as Instagram and Facebook. Thanks, everybody. Great to be with you all, and we'll see you again for another show really soon.